Can't sugarcoat this. This is a crucial point in the season for LAFC. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Episode 62 of LAFC Plus, the podcast for all your LAFC and MLS information. He is Mario Ruiz. I'm Dave Denholm. Mario, how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
Doing okay. It's not the best feeling coming off a loss at home. Not being able to take the full 3 points at home is always a little difficult, especially after being away from home at the FIFA Club World Cup. You're thinking, the guys are going to come back and start to play catch up on the Western Conference standings in MLS because you've been away so long. And, but props to Vancouver, all the respect in the world. It's a really good team. LAFC came in with a rotated lineup and, there's a little bit of a hangover, I think, from the FIFA Club World Cup, Tough loss, but all the respect and all the props to Vancouver for that win at BMO Stadium.
Huge win for Vancouver. They were short-footed in that game. Let's face it, not short-handed. Yes. They were short-footed. They had a lot of players missing with injury or international duty, and they just battled through, got to give them a lot of credit. Big 6-pointer there. Puts Vancouver now 12 points ahead of LAFC, and that's part of the reason I teased that intro, if you will. This is a crucial time for LAFC. Look, we got games in hand. I get it. But as we talked about even last week, you can't lose games in hand. They don't mean anything then. They're worthless if you drop points, if you start dropping points or losing games.
So true.
Just the second loss at home, so it's not like panic time or anything like that for LAFC. Still doing well. 7 wins, 5 losses, 5 draws. And remember, we were part of a CONCACAF Champions Cup run that was a huge part of the schedule early where it really bogged down the schedule for MLS. Part of it, obviously a big part of the Club World Cup, at the last minute, things, just kind of getting into that tournament last minute and not knowing maybe not how to handle it, but you don't know how you're going to react to that. Nobody does. It's the first time anybody's been in this type of format for this Club World Cup. So as Mario said, maybe a little bit of a hangover, no doubt. But it is a crucial point, Mario. There's a lot of things that make it so, and we'll start getting into those. We do have some news to tell you about, of course. On the night when we said au revoir to Olivier Giroud, heading over to Lille, now in the French First Division, after more importantly leaving LAFC by mutual agreement. Marlon has departed the club as well. We brought him in. He had been with Shakhtar Donetsk, had gone on loan to Fluminense, actually played in a Club World Cup final back in 2023 for them, and they're still, of course, involved in the Club World Cup, but a really nice center back, the 29-year-old Brazilian who had some injury concerns, before coming to LAFC, but really just a solid player. Did his job. Really, I don't know this for a fact. This is me speculating, but it just might have been difficult contractually with Marlon. Just the things that are going on, and maybe things that are a little bit out of everybody's control in a sense, or at least where LAFC couldn't just hey, let's bring them back. It's not always that easy, everybody.
Because he did play well here with the black and gold. He's a worldly guy, on and off the pitch, a lot of experience from all over the world, all the different teams he's been on. I played well with LAFC, and you can tell, the guys liked him. He liked being here. Yeah, probably was something like you're saying, out of everybody's control.
Well, it's look, we don't have to educate our listeners in the world of football. We all know what's going on. We get it. By and large, because we have good listeners, like people who are LAFC fans, people who are fans of this show, who are MLS fans and fans of world football. You men and women, but it is a good reminder that it's not always just about, wait, we want this guy, go get him. How could you not get him? People have choices, families have choices, agents have choices to influence their clients. And I'm not saying this is what's going on in the Marlon situation necessarily, specifically. I'm talking in general. I think we all have to take a step back sometimes in professional sports, and certainly world football is no different. In fact, it's probably leads the way in this in a lot of ways, because there are thousands of clubs where people can choose, hundreds of countries you can go play in, and you get offers and you get opportunities that we don't even know about, for these players. It's not just so simple as well, what do you mean you can't go sign Kevin De Bruyne? Well, guess what? He has a choice and all that. It's not just so easy. I can't believe San Diego didn't sign Kevin De Bruyne. Well, yeah, but he has a choice of Napoli, another great, these things we have to kind of remind ourselves. And sometimes it's just not going to quite work out at the time. whether it's rumors you hear about players coming in or stuff like that. But it's just a good reminder about that kind of stuff. That's not always just so cut and dried in world football. Like, hey, we love him. Let's keep him. And he's going to stay. And he's going to be here forever. It just doesn't always work out quite the way, So we do wish the best to Marlon. Just a nice fellow, just a good guy, just, very much professional, just did his job, got along with everybody. We don't really have problems with that here with LAFC, which is great, Mario. But, yeah, we just wish him the best. He's part of our history, and we'll always be rooting for him.
Yeah, similar, with Olivier. Olivier came in here and, just a great guy, all the experience in the world, a world champion, a World Cup champion, and he really did handle his time here like a true professional. And it was good for him to be able to get a send-off from BMO Stadium and all the black and gold faithful that was there. And he shared his nice words about the 32-52 and all the support that he's gotten, really since he got here with LAFC. And I think everyone just realized, it wasn't really the best fit, for this particular system. It didn't really fit the style. Even though he did bring his all to each and every single training session, each and every single match, it's just something that just didn't fit. But a lot of LAFC teammates, they definitely learned a lot from a top class guy like Olivier Giroud. And he really did try to adapt. He really did try to do what he wasn't really normally used to doing, and change his game to try to fit this, it just didn't work out. So props to Olivier and best of luck to Olivier as well.
Well, there's one thing I think that he's kind of like reputation proof, meaning there's going to be no negative to his reputation for, he didn't score 15 goals a season. I mean, it's just, again, we're too savvy in America for the most part. Like we're beyond like, we got to learn. We must learn about the sport. Tell us about offside. Like everybody, we're too savvy. It just didn't fit. Didn't work out. It happens. Olivier Giroud is no less of a player than he was the day before he signed with LAFC or the several months or year he spent with us. Every day he was the same great player. Doesn't always mean you're going to score 20 goals in a certain situation, right? So we wish him nothing the best. By the way, if he goes off and scores 15 and 10 assists for Lille, it doesn't mean that Ligue 1 is worse than MLS or vice versa. Like it doesn't. Yeah, it might just be a better fit. Like it might work out. Look, he scored more goals for AC Milan. You think Serie A is an easy league? Of course not. Like it just. But
again, because the last time we talked to him, he told us that he just, he hasn't changed at all. Nothing has changed within him. So he still feels good. So he still has that confidence that if he goes somewhere where he can, combine and do his thing and really gel and fit the system, he's going to do good things. And his next stop, I think, he feels confident, and I'm pretty sure he's going to do well. He bounced back before from other, teams where he wasn't really getting playing time or there was contractual things going on and things weren't going too well on the field. So then he would bounce back, and he's a pro. And like I said, a champion. So he's going to bounce back and he'll do well.
Yeah. I liken it this way. Olivier Giroud on the pitch is 38 and looks like he's going on 29. So he's not going on 39. He's ready to play. He's in peak physical condition, tip-top shape. I mean, he'll be fine. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. He'll step right in and be
and for them to mutually agree, to part ways is the best thing, I think, for LAFC and for Olivier to realize that, and just to say, hey, we can mutually part ways, because now LAFC are going to lean on other players, right? Like Jeremy Abobasi, Nathan Ordaz. I mean, those two guys right there, just off the top of the head, are going to have to step up big time, and they've already been getting minutes, so they're going to have to get more minutes, and they're really going to have to be efficient and consistent. And that's one of the things that Olivier said is he said about going forward for LAFC is just having that consistency. A good team has to be consistent. They can't just play a great game, against one team and then all of a sudden drop off and then you're like, what happened, So I think Olivier's right about that, is that any team, in MLS is going to have to stay consistent if they want to win trophies and do well in MLS.
Now, I think I could speak for Mario here in the early portion of episode 62, as I say, we're not breaking news with what I'm about to say, right? This is not something that we're going to tell you about some big signing or anything, but here are the cold, hard facts. You do part ways with Olivier Giroud. That is a designated player spot available. he was making a good salary like he should. He's Olivier Giroud. That becomes more available. Marlon was making good money, like a nice salary. Like he's a great player. He played for, big time clubs. You weren't going to get him otherwise. That is available. When players leave, you do have maybe some flexibility with designated player spots and salary cap and things like that. So again, we're not breaking any news here today. There's nothing to tell you in terms of what we know by any means, but these are just cold, hard facts. Like when, this is how we know in professional sports, you free up salary cap space in a salary cap league, maybe for a reason, or, the future. You don't have to think of it as like, how are we going to replace guys? Well, now you might have some of the tools to do it. So it's just guys come and go. That's how the world of professional sport is. And you just got to wish them well and hope it works out for everybody involved. And we wish nothing but the best for, of course, Olivier and Marlon.
And Nathan Ordaz is one of those guys that's going to have to step up, like I was talking about earlier. And I had a chance to talk to him earlier at training, and we talked about, his time at the FIFA Club World Cup. We talked about Olivier, and we talked about Austin FC. Man, it was tough to see you go down at the FIFA Club World Cup. Can you kind of just describe exactly what happened and how you're feeling right now at the moment?
I feel good. I feel, back to normal. I just got caught with an unlucky free kick on our side, and it happens. It's part of the game, and just had to sit out for the Club World Cup. But I'm happy, I'm healthy, thank God, and I'm ready to start again.
I know how much you really wanted to play against Chelsea. You talked about it earlier before. How was that you weren't able to help the team out the rest of the way?
I try to not look at it in a negative way. I'm glad I'm healthy, and I want to win games now. So it was unfortunate, but I think the team showed a lot of effort, and I'm not always going to be there. So it worked out well for them too.
What were some of the positive takeaways of being out there at the FIFA Club World Cup? I'm pretty sure it was a unique experience for all you guys.
Yeah, there was a lot of positive. I think playing higher competition, I think it just shows that we could keep up with it. I don't think we really got dominated at any point, really. I think, we fought our way through some games. The last game against Flamengo, we fought a tie. And, it just shows that we could keep up against the best teams.
Now, the schedule is going to really pick up here in the next few months. It's a jam-packed schedule. How important is it for the entire roster to step up during that time?
Yeah, I think all of us need to just pitch in our part and do our part and, help the club win games. We're a team that expects to be in the top half of it, and we're not right now, so we need to start getting those 3 points against everybody and, come playoff time, just be ready to win the whole thing.
Fans did get to say farewell to Olivier Giroud in that last match. What are some of your favorite things that you learned from Olivier, from that legend?
I think we have very different play styles, so I think from learning, it might have just been some smaller detail things, but just watching him and kind of just enjoying it, his athleticism, the way he could reach for balls, certain volleys, anything aerial, he was just deadly, and it was just, I respect it a lot.
Now, fans are not used to seeing you guys lose at BMO Stadium like in that last match. How important is it to bounce back with a good performance in this one against Austin FC? Yeah,
it's super important just for the fans. Obviously, we want to make you guys happy, but I think for the league, it matters a lot, these points. They're, 2 positions below us maybe, and we just need to start climbing again and get the streak going.
Austin FC is a strong team defensively, only conceded 23 goals in 20 matches. When you're attacking, how do you break them down?
I think, we trust in the training, trust in our own characteristics, and just play by those and hope it works out.
Good luck in this one. Thanks for the time, Nathan.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I think that's the mentality, Dave, of just trying to bounce back in a positive way, because they know they're trying to climb that Western Conference table. And that game against Vancouver really was disappointment for everybody, from Cherundolo to the players and the fans as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Nothing positive to say about it. We all know that. It just it is what it is, a 1-0 loss. You move on, and the game just keeps going. We're back in action in a big one again in the Western Conference for a team that certainly struggled early and have maybe come back a little bit. Certainly, they still got some issues, but Austin FC, the other team that beat LAFC at home, the only two that have beaten LAFC at BMO Stadium.
The games kind of look similar too.
Win. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Those were similar
Great
games.
point.
Vancouver
They
against
really
LAFC, and
It was like
Austin
the
against
one
LAFC.
chance the other team had, they scored. And
Yeah.
that was, I mean, literally Vancouver had one shot on goal. Austin had very little opportunities in that game and won 1-0. But it was kind of like they both scored and then locked it down. And both teams certainly defensively are very good. Austin is very good defensively. Brad Stuver, Mario, for my money, one of the best goalkeepers in MLS. Very good defense. They kind of play that style under Nico Estes, where they're more. Like
That's how they want to play.
They signed some big names thinking that was just going to mean automatic goals. Like, let's splash some money up there, and it's just going to, because we have the defense. We've got Brad Stuver. We're going to play defensively, but we're going to sign some big names offensively, and they're just going to take care of it. And it's not quite worked out that way, to be sure. Look, Brandon Vasquez is a threat. You got to always be alert, but he's only, 4 or 5 goals so far. He's not like he's their leading scorer, but they've only scored, I think, 15 goals all season, 16 goals. And we're talking about a team that's averaging like a less than a goal a game in terms of scoring, Mario. That's just, that's not going to get it done over the long haul, no doubt. I don't care how good your defense is.
That defense just doesn't let them to score as much as you would think with all that talent and all those attackers, like you said, like they brought in, because they really don't focus on that. They really do focus on having a strong defense. And to their credit, it's actually working. It's been working all season long. But that's what they did against LAFC. They got that goal early, and then they just packed the house, the back line there, and just did not let LAFC get through, which was very tough to see. And I know that LAFC have looked at that tape. They saw what they can do, and they're going to try to exploit some of those weaknesses that Austin does have, and try to hit them with the counter and try to do what LAFC does best. And hopefully that is to, get the full 3 points on the road, because Steve Cherundolo was saying that they're going for the win. They're going for full 3 points on the road, and he liked what he's seen at training so far this week. But they're going to Austin for the win.
Yeah. And look, you can get that done. Austin is still under 500. They've played a few more games than LAFC, 7 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws. So they're on the same amount of points, but of course have played 3 more matches than LAFC. And yet you still need to win this one. You can't be giving Austin 6 points from you if you drop this one as well in the season series. One thing I will say about Austin is if they get in the playoffs the way they play, they could be tricky, especially in that 2-leg first round. You know what I'm saying? The defense
that could play to their advantage for sure.
Brad Stuver makes some huge saves. The defense, and then maybe one guy gets hot. If Brandon Vasquez all of a sudden is lighting it up, you don't need many chances for a guy like that if he's on. The problem with them is Osman Bukhari and Murto Uzuni. They've combined for 2 goals and 5 assists. I mean,
they haven't done much.
Those are big name signings, big money
a lot
signings.
Of money there.
That's just nowhere near enough. So they did start out really slow. They are improved, quote unquote. I'll put that in quotes. But again, still a team that's kind of trying to find themselves along the way on the same point total. But don't let that deceive you. LAFC has 3 games in hands. But if you win this one, you can really, put some distance between yourself and Austin as the season wears on. And let's hope LAFC can get that done at Q2. Not an easy place to go. We've had some horror stories there over the years, since Austin's only been in the league a few years. But man, really good crowd. You have to tip your cap to the Verde, the fans there, Mario. But it should be. Look, it's another game that LAFC can win, but you got to play. This is why I say this is a crucial point of the season.
Yeah,
right. This season kind of, and I'm not saying based on one game like it hangs in the balance, but it hangs in the balance this season in a way, because it's either, all right, we're going to get untracked. We're past the Club World Cup. Let's build up towards playing really well towards the Leagues Cup, which again gets you in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, people, which could get you in the Club. These things are important. We want to win the Leagues Cup. So let's start building here through July. We got a heavy schedule, but just to get ready for the Leagues Cup, get back into really, really top form. And remember, going into the Club World Cup, LAFC was unbeaten in 9 games. So, and then the Club America game, I guess 10 games, all told. And now you got to get back to that. And I think it's a good opportunity, certainly, with this match. But it's a crucial point. It's a crucial point in the season.
It's a big opportunity, like you said, because there is a lot of games in hand. Most teams have 20 games played. LAFC have 17, so there is that chance. But that congestion is coming, which adds to the challenge, right? Because it's going to be a congested schedule with 2 games in 1 week for the most part. Every single player on this roster has to step up when their number is called at this point of the season, and there's not going to be any excuses, right now there's no time for excuses, and LAFC are already shorthanded with Olivier, the loss of Olivier. I think LAFC do need to bring in a player. They need to, you talk about that money that's freed up because of Olivier, the money that's freed up because of Marlon. I do think LAFC got to bring in a player, a quality player, and it's going to take everyone, everyone from top to bottom to really climb this Western Conference table.
Well, let's hope we have big news to talk about in future episodes here at FC Plus. Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, you're always looking to tinker in MLS. That's why some cap space is always a good thing. If you find yourself, you might lose a player, but you do have to look on the positive side. You have to kind of also remember that players are going to move on, and then now we have some opportunity here. We got some room. We have some potential to obviously spruce up the squad and just strengthen it even further. Speaking of changes and sprucing up a squad, I'm talking, this is a whole different level here, Mario. As we look around the rest of MLS, wow, what news we heard. Not exactly a shock, but shocking in the sense that it did happen and it's big. Not so much what happened, but that it did, is Toronto FC, Mario, making huge changes. Yeah. Parting ways with Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi. We're talking upwards of 20 million paid to those two players. Something like a lot of clubs pay less in total salary than those two were making from Toronto FC every year. In fairness, Insigne was the lion's share of that. It's some $14+ million, highest paid player that's not named Lionel Messi in MLS, Mario. Let me ask you, certainly a failure in terms of on the pitch. His team has been a mess. Were you surprised, first of all, or am I right? Like, not surprising, but rather that it happened rather than what happened, if you know what I mean. Like, this is big.
I'm not surprised that they actually finally did pull the plug on that, because, it was going so bad. It's probably one of the worst signings in MLS history, I think. I think without a doubt. But when it did happen, when they did make the signings, I thought, hey, in foresight, this is going to be great. This is going to be a perfect fit, with the Italian, supporters that are there, in Toronto. They have a huge fan base there. This is going to work, and they're great players, talented players. It just did not work. And for this to go on this long, and for them to spend this much money on these two guys, as a matter of fact, the whole team, it's a lot of money to not be, making deep runs for trophies. You just cannot have that happen, spending all that money. So not surprised that it happened now after, it wasn't going so good. It wasn't going as planned. So had to happen. They had to pull the plug on that one, Dave.
Yeah, there's no way you can say it was a success. Obviously, it was a complete and utter failure. But here's the thing. They were not bad signings. That's revisionist history. They ended up badly. It did not work out. We know that. But, I'm playing semantics here a little bit. But when it happened, Lorenzo Insigne was fresh off of winning the Euro, like with Italy, 31 years old, still in the prime, playing well for his club, going into that Euro tournament, played very well. I mean, tons of teams certainly would have wanted it. I mean, all the league, yes, he got a monster deal, and it was an awful failure, abject failure. As it turned out. But those were good signings. Federico Bernardeschi, it was a Juventus. I mean, this guy, and here, by the way, I think we also have to separate these two in terms of even MLS signings. They're leaving at the same time, probably for the reasons of, look, this is a teardown. We got to rebuild, fellas. Let's let you out here so you can get off at this bus stop so you can go find a job in Europe, maybe back in Italy if you want. Like at this time of year, it's the transfer window coming up. You fellas can get off at this bus stop, but these are two different MLS players. Bernardeschi's a good player. Like, he's still like, I'm not saying Insigne is not a talented player, but on the pitch in MLS, Insigne was a complete failure. Bernardeschi's a good player and has been.
We've seen him do some amazing things. Yeah,
exactly. So it's a different case. Like, you can't lump the two together. Now, they were unsuccessful certainly on the pitch. So what good is it really? I know Bernardeschi's a great player, but you might as well move on from both. Of course, I think that's the smart move, to gather all that money, 2 designated player spots. Okay, we got to rebuild anyway. Bernardeschi's not getting any younger per se, even though, again, he's a fine player. To me, he's an all-star level, like really, really good MLS player, but there just wasn't enough of that around in Toronto, so you might as well kind of cut the cord on both of them. And
how does Toronto respond to that? How about a 3-0 win over Portland Timbers, Oh, my goodness.
That was a good – well, I mean, look, obviously, as we record these shows every Thursday, they're playing as we're doing, so we don't know how that's going to work out after this officially, okay, they're moving on. It's too early for them to have signed it. I don't doubt that Toronto is going to improve their roster. Like, they don't have a problem spending, as we all know. Even before this, they still were spending big money. It just worked. Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Sebastian Giovinco, one of the best MLS players of all time. They just went to the well again, and it didn't work out this time. But I don't have any problem worrying about, like, oh, no, Toronto FC, they're going to collapse as an organization. No, they're going to be fine. They'll figure it out. But, it has to be done. And, again, it's opening it's closing a door to open a window, whatever. I mean, it's better for all involved. That's the bottom line, including Insigne and Bernardeschi. There are already reports or rumors, flying around that it's not like they're going to have a hard time finding another job. These two, they're fine players, and they'll be fine. But I think so will Toronto FC. I really do. I think it's a good move, Mario. We talk a lot about this on this show. Yeah. Sometimes you got to make the tough move, and you have to actually take steps back in this league sometimes to go forward, and you have to have the guts to do that. Like, it's not Toronto FC looks bad, right? It's embarrassing. Yeah. This has been horrible for them.
And talking about a bad situation,
you have to sometimes do that.
To a good situation, though, Dave, for me, Evander over in Cincinnati. I mean, Evander is just killing it. I think he's playing like an MVP right now. For me, he's my MVP. That's who I'm going with. I think he, has some big time goals already this season. He just had 2 goals, including a killer free kick goal in this last win over in Orlando. He's just making it look easy. Everything he does just looks so easy, and he's just so entertaining too. So it's like he's the difference maker in every single match that Cincinnati is in. He is that difference maker. So for me, Evander is really killing it over there at FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. I really don't. And I don't disagree. He is certainly a worthy choice. My MVP is going to sound ridiculous. It's Lionel Messi. And again, not because, oh my gosh, fanboy, like it's just Lionel Messi. Like, Miami only has 3 losses. They got some games in hand. Their points per game is pretty good. It's not like the best in the East, but it's right up there. They're going to be fine. Like, everybody always wants to write Miami off. Even in the Club World Cup, look, they ran into a buzzsaw against Paris Saint-Germain, and everybody all of a sudden again is like, well, they stink. And come on, PSG just literally hours before that did the same thing to Atletico Madrid. Yeah. Thank you. They just won the Euros by thrashing Inter Milan by 5-0. So, I mean, we know which the better Inter is. Apparently, it's Inter Miami by a goal. They only lost 4-0 to PSG. Inter Milan lost 5-0. So let's not play that game. Inter Miami is going to be fine. And Lionel Messi is just the absolute engine, of course. I mean, so to me, he's still the most valuable player, depending on how you want to word that. But I can't argue with Evander. There's other great choices too, honestly. How can you argue with Ty Baribo, or something like that? Like scoring goals for fun
at San Diego,
number 1 in the, Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's like, holy cow.
Quite a few out
Mario,
there.
I hate to say this, like, Mario, I think you were wrong.
Okay.
I'll say it. And I think you'll agree.
On which one?
I know you weren't that high on San Diego even.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you were wrong about San Diego. Like, you kind of didn't really buy into them.
You. Yeah, they're starting to prove me wrong, right?
Played, and as the season, and I'm not saying I was like I'm not that far behind you. I'm not trying to, you were wrong, but like you were like, you made the points of like you didn't think that maybe their roster was going to hold up, or I don't know. this is pretty deep in the season now. Again, they might hit the skids. They still have 14 games to go, but it isn't looking like they're going to hit the skids. Tops in the West and playing
Dryer's
phenomenally
definitely
lately. I mean, what do they got? One loss in the last 10 or something like that? I mean, it's man. What a signing
Dryer's
he was.
Really good player. He is going to be
not that
a good
huge
player
name,
for a long time.
Just Yeah, I don't disagree. Now, again, we know how second seasons can happen in MLS. You gotta really keep your head about you because you can have a great first season, and there's been some teams that do that, LAFC included, but LAFC got better in the second season. Like that's the hard part. It's San Diego's in the big honeymoon phase, and full credit to them.
You got to do it in the postseason.
You have to earn that, and they are. They're earning it on the pitch, but it's it's a whole different beast. It's a whole different beast after you have your first knockdown drag out fight with your wife, right? The honeymoon's over.
Yeah.
You're married now. You're like, we're past the honeymoon stage. Now you get the big knockdown drag out fight where you're really upset. Well, that's season 2 in MLS for some teams. Now you gotta now you're really married here to MLS. So we'll see how that goes. And again, playoffs are some of that too. Remember St. Louis dominating in the West their first season. Got dumped in the first round, and it was already on the way down for them. So we'll see how San Diego finishes, but kudos to them. I mean, we can't take anything away from them. There's no doubt about that. It's an interesting time right now in MLS because a lot of people think like these games don't matter in MLS. Some fans, maybe they're not even that big into the league. This is when you start separating. This is when you start earning home field advantage in the playoffs right about now.
True.
These games, these are the ones that are going to make a difference whether you finish 6th or 3rd or 2nd. I mean, that's just the facts, like obviously every game matters and down the stretch is huge. Don't get me wrong. But like, these are when you set yourself up for what happens in the final month or two. And I mean, that's why I say it's such a crucial point in the season for LAFC. It's not just LAFC, but it's from our perspective, like, here we go. This is the second half now. You're either going to really start taking off or it's just going to be one of those seasons where it's like, everything is tough, right? Like we're still a good team, but everything's tricky. Every game is hard, Sometimes you need to get back on what LAFC was doing. And we saw it. 9 unbeaten, 10 unbeaten. That's what we got to get right back to as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And there's some good teams on the East, too.
Behind us. It was amazing, and I can't wait to get back there.
Columbus, is a good team, on the East. Yeah. And Philadelphia. But I really do still like Evander and Cincinnati. I mean, they got Luca Artigiano over there, Danke. Miazga's over there. Miles Robinson is over there. He's been with the U.S. men's national team. But that's a team that is solid from front to back, and they can actually make a good run for the Supporters' Shield.
Yeah. Well, that leads us into our MLS action we want you to watch as a fan. And Mario's choice is a very good one, of course. And certainly he's been talking about FC Cincinnati. Mario, what's that match?
Yeah, FC Cincinnati got another good one, and this one can be blockbuster here against Chicago Fire. 2 explosive offenses with a lot of scoring power in this one. 2 really good coaches in Pat Noonan, for the Cincinnati side, and then Greg Berhalter on the Chicago side. But for me, the biggest star right here is Evander, and he's been on fire for Cincinnati, and just 1 point shy of that Supporters' Shield is FC Cincinnati, so they're really trying to, make that run for that. And these are 2 teams that like to find the back of the net often, and as good as Cincinnati is playing right now, nobody has scored more goals in the Eastern Conference than Chicago. They got 38 goals on the season. That's a lot of goals, and this game right here has all the signs of being a pretty entertaining, high-scoring game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the choice. I think you're right. I think you're definitely right about that. This could be a really big number goals-wise. My choice is Montreal and Inter Miami. You're probably like, oh, okay, here he goes with Inter Miami. It's interesting. Montreal, a couple of wins in their last 3. Certainly not a team you're going to expect much from. And I think what I mean by Inter Miami is, how do they respond to the Club World Cup? The highs and lows, right? Getting out of your group.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous group stage, unbeaten. And then you just get kicked in the teeth in the first half against the best team in the world. Okay, how do you recover? If that's going to happen, sometimes you're going to lose to a tremendous, team. Literally the best team in the world. And they took advantage of that and beat Inter Miami badly. How do you make sure you don't let that affect you You're going on the road.
That is hard. It's hard to
recover. You didn't have any
from
control of that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's a game you should win. You know, it's Montreal. Like, they're struggling, even though they're playing a little better, to their credit.
Mm-hmm.
They got young players, but, you know, they've been injured. They're struggling a bit, but they're also, you know, kind of a little bit on the uptick. And now this is their Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
They're playing Inter Miami. This is their Super Bowl at home. This is the one that everybody at Stade Saputo has been waiting for this season in the regular season. So how does Inter Miami handle that? You know, like, I mean, it's a big game. It really is. And maybe Inter Miami, it's exactly what the doctor ordered. You know, go in there and thrash at Montreal, and they'll just get over the Club World Cup hangover, and boom, there they go. So we'll see. The other one I love, speaking of Club World Cup, Seattle didn't look like they had much of a hangover from the Club World Cup. They played very well in the tournament. They came out and played very well in their MLS game. Now they got to play Columbus, and here we go. Now it's like, this is like for both teams kind of okay, down the stretch we come here. This is a great matchup that, who knows, could be a precursor to MLS Cup for all we know. I mean,
I was going to say, anytime these two teams come together, you can always say that. You can always say, is this a preview of the MLS Cup final? And then, you know, that's true again. This time around, yes, you could say that. You know, just like LAFC, you know, is coming out of the FIFA Club World Cup, you know, with good performances. Seattle had good performances as well. Even though they didn't get the results, Seattle was in most of those matches. They played well, you know. But, you know, it's hard to coming out of that FIFA Club World Cup, but Seattle has done it, you know, and they have a tough one now against Columbus. Good thing for them. It is at home in Seattle, so that's a plus there for Seattle. But Columbus is actually about to go on the road for 3 straight matches, so they need to start off their road trip with a big win against Seattle, which is very tough to do on that turf, very tough to do against those supporters there in Seattle. And then you have a very good opponent just as far as the players. The players are good. The team is good. So it's a tough task for Columbus on the road in Seattle.
Yeah, you know, with the Sounders, look, again, great team. Mario's not wrong. I mean, he's 100% right. But it's a team that if you play well against, you can get a result, even in Seattle. Like, it's not like the fortress where it once was, where you were just lucky if you were in the game at all. By the
this
end
is
of
coming
it,
from an LAFC podcast where LAFC have had a lot of success out there. Can't say that for all the other teams.
You know, although we got run over up there this year. Let's face it, right? True. We went to Lumen Field. We got run over. Now we beat the snot out of them in BMO, but we got run over up in Seattle. I mean, that's the bottom line. So it can happen. I'm not saying they're not good at home, but it's a place where now I think with this roster and the way the Sounders are, like, Columbus can certainly, despite the fact it's a tough trip, long road trip across the country, they can certainly go there and expect to maybe get something and, you know, really kind of catapult them. Because even the thing we've been talking about Columbus, the weird thing about Columbus is I don't think they're playing that well. They just don't lose. Like, they're hard to beat, even when they're not playing that well. Like, I don't think this is vintage Columbus Crew. I don't think that's a big stretch. I'm not making news there, you know, like, they're really just good. They're just a great organization, and they're just so solid that you don't really beat them, though. Even when maybe you play well or they don't. I mean, look, they're 10 wins, 3 losses, and 7 draws. Now, maybe that's too many draws, but, like, they still don't lose. So, maybe they're not at their height or their powers, but they know how to manage a match. They know how to go on the road and get results. What is it? Road record is not great, but not bad. 3 wins, 2 losses, 3 draws. That's very good, you know, admirable. So that is why I picked this match. I think it's just certainly 2 teams that are going to be battling for whatever you want to put in front of them by the end of, whether it's Leagues Cup, you know, going in there, maybe, you know, certainly Columbus has had nice run in that, as we are well aware too. But it could be MLS.
As an LAFC fan, you don't really root for Columbus that much very often, but I think in this one here, I think we're kind of rooting for Columbus, right? Because we need to catch up to Seattle. So this is one of those rare times where we're saying, "Go Crew."
Well, it's one of those rare times where we probably want to draw because we still want to one eye on the MLS Cup home field advantage too, right? Like, we don't want the Crew getting too many points out there either.
Good point.
So you know, like, they played more matches. They're ahead of LAFC right now, but LAFC, we still got, you know, we got time, and you want that draw. You want both teams dropping points if you can help it, no doubt. So we'll see how that goes out. Mario, great stuff. Do have a big match on Saturday again at Austin FC, a little earlier because of that airtime for the pregame. You'll hear it on 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app is 5 p.m. Pacific, kickoff right around 5:40. So again, that's Central Time Zone, but it should be a really interesting match. I'm looking forward to it, Mario. Always a pleasure doing this show. I always look forward to it. This is ESPN Plus. Take us out of here, brother.
Yeah, looking for that payback, right? On Ilie, we're coming back for that payback on you and Austin FC from that loss that you guys handed to us earlier in the season. But yeah, like I said, Cherundolo's going for the win. All the boys are really excited to bounce back strong with a good performance. So yeah, catch us on the pregame 5 p.m. on 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app. That's Dave Denholm. I'm Mario Ruiz. We'll catch you on the next episode of LAFC Plus. Peace.